Alright, so there's a lot of stuff that happens for school that's online, which is not really the way it was when the last time that I was in school. When was the last time I was in school? I don't know. Yeah, it's been like 10 years, something like that. So there's a lot more stuff that happens online, and there's a lot of academic publications that are online too. So you don't just buy textbooks. There's also a lot of classes that have online websites that help you practice your vocab and like dialogue and all that stuff. And but in order to use them, you have to give an email address. So yesterday it didn't really do me any good. Like, I was trying to think of something that would not that I could use kind of anonymously. So I made up an email address. I used to do this a lot more than I do now, like having to make an email address for something in particular. I didn't want to give my actual email address because I didn't want to give those people another way to get into my life. Whoever it is that would just be curious, or who wanted to pick on me, or wanted to like invade the privacy of people that I have to email with, or any of those things. So I made up an entire email address. Mind you, this is something that I did in the couple hours I had before class, because I really just had not had time. God, I hate this car. I had not had time to study it. I mean, I'm taking 4 classes. I talked last night about how my time is broken up into bits and pieces throughout the day to study and kind of do everything else that I have to do. And so I had to spend, I don't know, however much time it was. I spent 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes just to create the email address, then to create the profile. And this was like a couple hours before class. So, I used to, I've had a ton of email addresses because I used to always create them every time I had to create a blog, especially if it was some kind of blog that had some kind of, some sort of, certain number of publications that you could do before you had used up all of their capacity and had to buy something, which of course I could never afford to do over the past few years. So I tried to, you try to find a way to create a screen name that will give you some anonymity, and then you go through them, and it's just like you go through names online, trying to find something that will be all right. And there kind of really isn't anything. So there was one. You start with the A's, you go to the B's, you go to the C's, you go to the D's, you go to the E's. I can't use any of those. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but no, the people who attack me all the time, they don't think about it. They're just ready to attack me. I don't know if they ever sit down and think about my situation as if they were me. Think about my situation as if they were me. Think about the way that they think about me when they're looking at what I do, invading my privacy, and then try to find something, create something, a name, whatever it is, that would not trigger those kinds of attacks. Why don't you do that sometime? Go into a store, look around, see what you can buy. Go online, see what kind of name you can think of, or try to find or put together that will not trigger that. Knowing yourself, knowing how you think about me, knowing how you treat me, knowing how you're invading my privacy all the time, knowing what your own motivations are. Why don't you do that? Do it for 10 minutes. See how it goes, right? So I found one thing that seemed like it might work. Then I was like looking through other names, and during all this time, like the clock is ticking. I'm trying to get some studying done before I go to this class. Other stuff that I had done during the week, I absolutely knew that I had to do to not like fail my classes. And so I only had this amount of time. I found the name. It had some kind of a story attached to it, because they all did. All the names that I had looked at, I just happened to. All the websites are problematic that way. The name websites, that kind of thing. I didn't really remember it. I didn't really know what it was. I had never really known the story behind it. I chose this name. I was like, oh, based on the definition that I was given from the website that I looked at, I thought, well, that'll work. That'll be all right. And then after I created the email address, going into the email, getting a random password generator. The passwords I've talked about before too. There's no way to get some kind of password that nobody can interpret as having some kind of code value. So I've talked about that a number of times, and now I just try to like make myself take pretty much whatever they give me, no matter what it looks like, because I can't spend all day on it. I can't, So I created this name. Then after I created the email address, I I looked up the actual story, like looked at, you know, another couple websites about what the story was with this name, and I was like, oh, that's bad. That's going to be an issue. But I can't spend any more time on it today. I can't. I have to study for this class. And then when I actually got to the website that I had to use the email address for, I realized after I created my profile, they were using my name anyway. I had to use my real name, so it was all kind of a waste of time, you know. And now, of course, the conglomerate is all over me, and there's nothing I can do about that. You know, why don't you leave me alone? You know, I hate you so much. I hate the way you treat me. I hate what you put me through every day. You know, and I don't know why you're doing this to me. Why don't you just leave me alone?